great. Good evening, everyone. I'm trying to share my screen. Um, can you see my screen, please?
Yes, sir.
All right, great. So, first off, I want to
Yes, sir, you
appreciate,
can see us.
great, thanks. I want to appreciate NICHUB for inviting me to facilitate this session. I do not take it for granted. For everyone at the hub and for everyone who is listening to me this evening. This is 6:07 p.m. Nigerian time. I count it a privilege to be having this conversation with us. So what I want to do is run through a series of thoughts process with us around the topic. Um, just share my ideas around it and share a couple of insights that would help us. And then after then, we can now open the floor for question and answer. Questions and answer are actually my most favorite part of every presentation and conversation I have because it helps me go deeper into personalized problems, challenges, or issues that I'm able to speak to, right? So I would maybe in the next 40 to 45 minutes, I'll just try to share my thoughts around this based on my slides I've put out. So let us get into the conversation. So the topic we have before us is SWOT analysis, career paths, and job vacancy. I mean, it sounds like a lot of big words and buzzwords, but really what we want to talk about is career paths and job vacancies and how using SWOT analysis or doing SWOT analysis helps you to find the intersection between the two, right? So of course, they've done a brief introduction about myself, but if anything that I'd always like people to just have in back of their mind about me is that I'm a consultant first, and I'm also better seen as a nation builder. So beyond my job in HR and beyond my job as a consultant in HR, right? I typically am more ultimately focused on how we can build our nation, Nigeria, and what are the little ideas and little strategies that we can always pin together to get to build a great nation, right? So I have a BS in sociology, then went on to do a master's in managerial psychology, which aided my work within the human capital development space. So I want to start with this quick question. So I would like somebody to unmute, maybe one or two persons, to answer what was your great grandfather's occupation? Just think. I don't know how what's the average age we have in this house, but how many of us really met our great grandfather or your great grandmother, right? And if you did met them, or they were still alive when you were born, did they ever tell you anything about, or did your parents ever tell you anything about your great grandfather's occupation? Anybody? Anybody? I can't see hands, but okay, let me do this so I can see the hands. But I like it to be more engaging. Just one or two hands. I'll take one or two. Okay, I made something. Yeah, you can unmute and then let's hear you.
Good evening, sir.
Hi.
All right. From what I was told my great grandfather was a farmer. Even though I wasn't born to meet him, and even my grandfather, but I was told he was a farmer.
All right, great. So we have one response from Ahmed Samson. His occupation was a farmer. Who else? Let's take one more. Okay, Margie Joas. I hope I pronounced that correctly. You can go ahead and let's hear you.
Good evening, sir. Yeah, you are right to the pronunciation of my name.
All right.
Yeah. Same here. My great grandfather was a farmer. I never met him as well. I was a farmer.
All right, great. So I know that if we keep taking turns to ask everybody what our great grandfather's occupation was, right, or what our great grandparents' occupation was, no doubt we would all come to an agreement that most of us, our great grandfather was either a farmer or a hunter, right, or um, something around that line, right? So, I mean, if you're a believer, let's say you're a Christian and you read your Bible a lot. If I ask you what was the first occupation in the Bible, right, that you can remember of. From the days of Adam in the Bible, Adam was literally a gardener, right? Adam was a gardener, and that's related to farming. So when God created Adam, right, He created Adam to mend the garden, right? So we can literally say that Adam was a gardener, right? So from Adam as a gardener in the past of work to we as today, most of us, most of the conversation we see about occupation today is either technology driven or something around that, right? So most of us now want to be tech bro or tech sis. But I'm trying to get us to the point where really where the occupation or career really started from. So if you want to go from the biblical perspective, you agree with me that occupation really started from gardening, right? Today we are now more into technology and all of that. Or if you want to go towards what your great grandfather's occupation was, you don't agree with me that your great grandfather's occupation was either a farmer or a hunter, or something around that, right? So I'm trying to let us know that the world of work has changed and the world of work would always be changing, right? So from wherever the world of work has been, right, from the days of your great grandfather's occupation, it has always been evolving. It has always been moving from one occupation to another. Or let me make it this way. It has always been expanding. There's always been an evolution of careers. There's always been an evolution of occupation. There's always been an evolution of jobs, right? So what we have as occupation and jobs and career today was not what it used to be 100 years ago or 1,000 years ago, right? So that's the first thing I want us to have at the back and the front of our mind. It will help us create a movement around that conversation today. Yeah, so but there's one idea a few years ago, the World Economic Forum created one idea based on their research, and they called it the fourth industrial revolution, right? And what it just means is they're just trying to explain how industries have evolved over the years, right? Or how globalization or how the world has evolved over the years based on industries or based on work, right? So it started from 1765. They called it the first industrial revolution. And typically what they are saying, right, is that revolution was characterized by mechanization, right? So that was a period where it was invention around the steam engine. So remember the past of work, your great grandfather was typically a farmer. And we all know that, your great grandfathers were not exposed to tools like tractors and all of those high tech equipment or high mechanized equipment. Most of them were using hoes, cutlasses to do, it was just basically subsistence farming, right? Farming for their family. And that's because, then the world or the society was not really very big, right? People were just focused on survival, right? So how can my father go to the farm, harvest crops, plant and harvest crops, and bring those crops and then provide food for his immediate family, right? So but as society evolved to the point where we now began to invent what is called machines, right? Machines that are led by steam engine. That was the first revolution that we experienced, in the world. And when we talk about revolution, don't think about Nigeria because at the time where revolutions really started or invention started in the First World Wars, right? All of those. Think of the Britons, think of England, right? Think of Germany. Those were the countries that were exposed to these industrial revolutions, right? So the war and all of those characterize, the necessity for us to now have industries or for us to now have machines that are powered by a steam engine, right? That was like the first invention we experienced that changed or shaped how the world of work began to look like. But we moved, right? Society is always evolving, and that's one thread of one line of thought I want us to really have as we continue this conversation is that society has always been evolving and society will always be evolving. Society is always evolving. So if we say that the first industrial revolution we experienced was in 1765, around 1870, there was a second revolution. And what really was that there was an improvement upon the first revolution or the first invention the first invention that we experienced in society, right? Which is machines that was led by steam engine. But this time around, it was machine that was really driven by not just steam engines, but electricity, right? The invention of electricity, we now experience what was called mass production. So even when we had mechanized system of farming, right, it was still literally man-driven, right? But by this time, we're now experiencing much more mass production. And what that means is that just by creating a mold, you can mass produce stuffs, right? So from textile to different industries, we're experiencing this revolution, right? So remember that every invention leads to further innovation or further invention. So mechanization helped accelerate the process by which we now had much more inventions, such that by the third revolution, we're now experiencing, and this was around 1969. I mean, think of 1969 as 9 years after Nigeria gained independence. Other countries were already inventing automated system, right, powered by electronics and information technology. That was where computers, that was where IT, that was where technologies was really now in vogue, right? We now started seeing more digital technology coming up around the 1969s. In other countries, Nigeria perhaps was still in the mechanized system. So while other countries were within the third revolution and were enjoying the fruits of those third revolution, Nigeria was still crawling behind. We were still, that was perhaps when we now started adopting the mechanized system of government. But what I'm trying to say is that the world is not driven by what happens in Nigeria. The world is driven by what happens, around innovation and invention. So the fact that you're in Nigeria and then you are not, in quotes, you are not part of the industrial revolution, so you were not part of the significant fruits of the industrial revolution, does not mean that you should now don't know all of these things, right? So we moved from the third revolution that was powered by electronics and information technology, and now we are now in what we call the fourth industrial revolution, and almost at the fifth industrial revolution. But the fourth industrial revolution is where we are now seeing a lot of Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, big data, cloud computing, cyber physical. So when you think of new technologies, you're always thinking of how technology is influencing every other thing beyond just technology or beyond just electronics, right? So we are thinking of how technology is influencing, for example, transport, right? So we are now beginning to see self-moving vehicles, right, or self-supporting vehicles. So beyond cloud computing, beyond just saving things in flash drives and physical hardware and all of that, we are now saving things in the cloud, right? So that talks about new technologies, right? So artificial intelligence. So there are a lot of new technologies coming up, right? So those are. I just took us past, in summary, just took us through a quick journey of how the world of work has really moved between different revolutions, or what WF called, four industrial revolutions, right? So, but I want to bring it back home, right? So we just talk about high level things. Let's even bring it down a bit. How has the world of work changed for you, right? What differences have you seen, right? And I want to take like maybe one or two hands. What differences have you seen between in the last 10 years between I want to assume that most of us here are graduates, right? So what difference have you seen between when you were in secondary school and now that perhaps you are done with secondary school, maybe you are in university, or you are in university, or you are done with the university, right? So between when you were in secondary school and now, what differences can you say that you have seen or experienced in your own life? Let's take one or two hands. In the way the world has changed, right? What differences can you say you have experienced personally between when you were in secondary school, that's about maybe 6 years ago, 7 years ago, 10 years ago, and now? Who want to say something? One or two persons? Okay, great. Maggie again. Let's take you. Thanks. I wish we can have more people who have not spoken before, but go ahead, Maggie.
All right. In terms of communication, we used to have we could reach a limited number of people before, like through even phone conversations. But now we have like the Android system of communication, like the Android systems that we could reach people via let's say WhatsApp. We could reach a very larger number of people than we used to have before. So that's one invent in I mean one thing that I've seen, one thing that has changed over time.
Okay. Thank you. Improve digital communications. I thought I saw one showing car hands up. I don't know if I'm correct.
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir.
All right, great. Go ahead.
Good evening, Shanika Sunday from Adamawa. So my own is about computer. I remember when I was staying in PS3, we were told to go and print interface, Windows interface. So all of us we rushed to one cyber cafe to go and print that thing. But now that things have changed, like it's almost everybody that has laptop. Then it was like something that is like new thing that, but now it's not that it's now common that many people have many people have laptops and even the interface. Then I was like, ah, what is this? What is this? But now it's not something that is then was it was new to me, but now it's no more new and everybody now have laptop. Almost everybody
Great.
now have
Great,
laptop.
great point. Great point. So we now have more personal computers, personalized digital systems, as against when it just got into Nigeria. Or most of us remember that the early days of internet, the early days of information technology, we always literally depend on a cyber cafe to do everything that is computer related, right? I grew up in that system where the first time I got exposed to the internet, right, was in a cyber cafe, right? But today cyber cafes are almost non-existent because everybody either has a smartphone that can literally do anything that a cyber cafe wants to do for you, or you have a laptop or a computer system in your house that literally does anything that you would have gone to a cyber cafe to do. And so that just speaks about the the accelerated growth, right, of technology in the world. And I say that to say we are going to, I'm driving at somewhere, right, in our conversation, but that's just your own personal experience about how the ways of the ways the world of work has changed, right? But again, that's if we have to put a term to what we have just said, the first way, or number one for me, would be technology advancement. There've been significant changes in the workplace, right? In terms of technology and how it has transformed the work from a wireless, paperless, right? I mean, from a wire, paper, and traditional workplace to a wireless, paperless, and digital workplace. So, and I'm going to give you a good example, even personally. Um, as I speak to you, I'm in Port Harcourt, right? I live and work in Port Harcourt, but I mean, I work for a company that is headquarters in Lagos, right? My head office is in Lagos, but the last time I worked in a physical environment, right, in a physical office was 2021. That's the last time I worked in a physical office. Ever since then, I have been working from anywhere I find myself, right? So work in that sense is no longer a place that you go to. Work is what you do regardless of where you are to provide value or deliver value, right? And the only thing that has made this possible is technological advancement, right? I remember many years ago, I don't know how many of us really experienced the typewriter, right? Now the world has moved from a typewriter to a laptop, right? People no longer carry those big box, as a typewriter, right? They now have a laptop. You either use a MacBook or you use an HP or you use a Dell laptop and all of that, right? See also the rate of growth that we have experienced in our telecommunication system, right? From landlines to cell phones to smartphones, right? And now we are beginning to have what we call seamless phones. What seamless phone means is that you have phones that do not require you to use a SIM, right? So we now have eSIMs, but we are seeing the increasing rate of technological advancement in our world. That is having a toll or an impact on how we really do work or how work is done. It's transforming our work continuously into a wireless, paperless, and digital workplace, right? That is also feeding into what we call remote work, right? I just give you an example. I work remotely. There are many of us right now, right? You work from not a physical office, perhaps you work from your home or you work from a hub close by, right? You work from anywhere. So work has gone beyond where you go to. Our fathers many years ago, right? When you see your father when your father say, "I'm going to work," for them they are going to a physical office. But today, you don't tell people you go to work. You just say you are working. I mean, work is now no longer where you go to. Work is what you do wherever you are, right? And all of these things is being driven by technological advancements, digital economy, and the digital systems, right? So we are also seeing an increasing rate of what is called the gig economy, right? Most of us are freelancers. We now begin to see a typical example of freelancer maybe is your bus drivers. Before, if you want to take a taxi, you have to go to the bus stop and get all those yellow. I don't know how many of us grew up to experience those yellow taxis in Lagos or maybe in Ibadan or wherever you are, right? There are taxis, you have to go to a motor park before you can get a taxi, right, to your destination. But today, from the comfort of your home, you can order a ride and it takes you to your destination, right? You want to travel to a location and instead of getting to that location before you book your hotel, you can literally before you arrive at your location, you can literally book an hotel or book where you want to stay, right? And how long you are going to stay. So or you're a graphic designer, you just go on a site called Fiverr and provide value to somebody who pays you currency in exchange, right? So work literally is not has gone beyond where you go to. Work is what you do to provide value and get money in return, right? So there are different way the world of work has changed, right? A big part of how the world of work has changed is also artificial intelligence, right? Artificial intelligence can be automation can be as simple as remember your ATM, right? Before, if you go to a bank to collect your money, many years ago, I mean, I experienced Oceanic Bank many years ago, where you go to a bank and there's somebody in the counter called a teller that counts your money and gives to you, right? And you say you're going to withdraw money from the bank. But today, I mean, there's literally no tellers, right? Maybe one. You find like one in every bank, right? Who literally just stay there to count money. But you see that there is an ATM that you go to slot in your ATM card that gives you your money. There's a technology that have taken the space of maybe 10 tellers that you would have seen in a banking hall. Or there's a POS machine, right? There's a POS, and I can bet that almost all of us tried it today use the POS. Most of us don't even do ATMs anymore because even the ATMs no longer has cash, right? You just go to a POS or and then slot in your card. The most important thing is your money is given to you. What I'm trying to say is that we are always looking for how to get the same quality of work done for a cheaper and faster way. And that's why you are seeing a lot of automation, even in the way cars are now coupled together, right? Many years ago, you can have hundreds of people working to get a car done. But today, that hundred of people have been disrupted by a single machine who just does it more efficiently, cheaper and faster, and yet produces the same quality. And that's what technology is doing, disrupting the entire way the world of work has changed. The reason I took us up through this journey is if we do not know the past and the evolution, we may not be able to acknowledge or even assimilate why there's a need for us to do what is called SWOT analysis, right? So when we talk about SWOT analysis, what are we really talking about? SWOT analysis is a term. It's actually a business term, right? It's a business term that is used to do what is called strategic planning. Because I'm a consultant, I'm trying to break this down. So when we say we are doing strategic planning for an organization, or maybe they are doing strategy retreat for the next 3 years or the next year of the business, right? One of the planning tools that is used when we do strategy retreat is SWOT analysis. And what that means is simple, is a tool that helps you analyze and identify the internal and external factors that can impact your organization. So now we are bringing this term into how it works in career or jobs or vacancy and all of that, right? So what we say is that SWOT analysis is a strategic planning tool that helps you to identify and assess the two keywords here: internal and external factors that can impact your life, or that can impact your career, or that can impact the projects that you are working for. I hope this is clear. So when you think about SWOT analysis, think about it as a planning tool. It's a framework for planning, right? And when you look at that framework for planning, it's divided into two. There's an internal factor, there's an external factor. Because whether you like it or not, right, there will always be external factors, right, that is impacting on your career, right? And I mean, we can go from example to example. Nobody knew that while you are just there, while your great grandfathers were there, depending on who and cutlasses to do the job, somebody somewhere or some set of people somewhere were thinking ahead, right, of how can we get better tools to help make farming, more impactful or more profitable, right? So by the time you sleep and wake up, somebody has produced what is called a tractor. Those are external factors that is now impacting your life or your career or your job, right? So what this will help you do is that it will help you really sit down and assess your life, assess your skills, assess your interests, and use those results from the assessment that you have done to now plan what you should be doing, thereafter. I hope this makes sense to us. But when you hear SWOT analysis, there are 4 things you should think of. SWOT analysis means strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. The S in SWOT analysis is strength. And what strength means is that we're talking about internal attributes or resources that supports a successful outcome. So what it means is that what are the internal attributes that I have that can lead me to build a successful career, right? So we're bringing it home now, right? So we'll talk about career pattern and all of that. How does SWOT analysis relate to career pattern? Is you are doing an analysis on your strengths. So when you are talking about your strengths, you are not talking about the things that are external. You're talking about the things that are internal. And I'm going to give you a typical example from my life. When I was done with university, final year, went to NYSC. It was actually in NYSC I started doing what is called SWOT analysis, right? So that's why I like this topic, because I can literally use myself as an example, right? So by the time I was done with university and I was in NYSC, 4 months before my end, I can't remember if it's 4 months or 5 months, but I know that it was like half into my NYSC, I started asking myself questions around, okay, so what would I do after NYSC? What career paths would I studied sociology, and I mean, if you are somebody who studied the kind of course I studied, when they tell you that anybody who studies sociology can work anywhere, that's the big lie, right? That's the first realization that was a lie. They were just using it to bamboozle us. When you say you can work any course you study and they tell you can work anywhere, just know that they are lying. They are lying to you, right? So I did a SWOT analysis, and I now began to ask myself, okay, what can I really now do after this NYSC? What career path should I focus on? Because I didn't have clear roadmap to what I wanted to do when I was in NYSC. So I started doing what is called SWOT analysis. And what I just did was simple. Took a sheet of paper and asked myself, what are my strengths, or what are my interests, right? What skills do I say I have now, right? So I now started listing out my skills on strengths, right? So ask myself, okay, what do I really have that I can use as a foundation? Prior to that time, I've done a lot of volunteering. So I had skills in communication, I had skills in project management, I had skills in leadership, right? And as at that time I was in NYSC, I was also serving in PECA as the National External Coordinator, right? And in that period of my service, I was doing a lot of public relations, social media management, managing teams, and all of that. So I was literally writing out all of those skills that I feel that I have, right? Because remember that your strengths are your internal attributes, right? You have to take note of them. Again, the definition is that you are identifying. That's what SWOT analysis is, an analysis tool. You have to identify and list those things that can impact your life, your career, your organization, your project, or whatever you're doing. So list them out. Now you go to weakness, right? So if you have a sheet of paper, you write SWOT, you are doing an analysis, right? So you have listed your strengths. Opposite it, you have to list your weaknesses. Weaknesses are also internal factors that could hinder your success. At that time, and weaknesses can be anything. It can be both technical and it can be non-technical, right? It can be technical and it can be non-technical. Your bad character can be a weakness. Somebody who sleeps too much can be a weakness. Just identify those factors, because when you are doing SWOT analysis, you have to be honest. You are not trying to, what's the right word I'll use here? You are not trying to impress anyone, right? You are being honest so that you can create a plan, a career plan, or a career path for yourself. So list out the internal factors that will hinder your success, and that can range from laziness, it can range from no skills in this, it can range from sleeping too much of pressing phone, always distracted. It can be anything, right? Just list it out. And then you come to opportunities. So when you come to opportunities, we are talking about external factors that you can now exploit. So when you look at opportunities, look at it in line with your strengths. So what I was doing there was I listed out my skills and I was asking myself, and you can do a Google search. It's not anything, difficult. So for each of those skills I had or I wrote down, I was asking myself, what can I build a career on with these skills? And I was just doing a Google search because when you're doing analysis, you are doing research, right? So for leadership, I was asking myself, what can you build a career on with leadership skills? What can you build a career on with social management skills, right? So for each of those skills, I was writing opportunities, career opportunities that I can pursue out of that particular skill, right? So then I did that and I had options for career opportunities because at that time I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I needed to analyze my life and analyze where I'm coming from and then now build a career path around that. So listed out those opportunities, right? That was where I had human resources, I had public relations as a career, social media management, I had consultants as a career. So all of those things were now career opportunities as options for me, right? Then opposite is threats, external factors that could pose risk or challenges. So in front of those threats, you're asking yourself questions like, are there competitors, all right? Is there so much need for these things? For example, when I looked at one of the career paths was consulting, I realized that to be a consultant in Nigeria, right, you have to have a lot of experience and a lot of networks. So that would not be, for me, the right career path to start on, because I will need a lot of experience and I will need a lot of networks, right, to build a career on consulting or to build a career as a consultant. So that was threats for me. Threats for me that there are many experienced, who have spent many years and have many networks. So I was asking myself, if I get into this career path, right, as I finish from NYC, it means I'm just going to be struggling and all of that, right? So the second thing is, I was asking myself, what are the threats? Getting into a consulting firm, one of those big fours, was all of these things, guys, get me, is that you are doing a lot of research, you are asking yourself a lot of questions, you are going to Google, you are asking yourself, you are itemizing and writing a lot of things, so that by the time you are done, you can look at the entire book or the entire notes that you have written, and you're now making a decision based on your strengths, based on your weakness, based on your opportunities, based on your threats. And you are now looking for what is called the maximum, right? What decisions will give you the maximum return on, on that career path. I don't know if I have confused anyone here, so I want to stop here and be sure that we all got what I just said. Does that make sense to us? Excuse me. Does that make sense to us, guys? Are we together? Are we still together?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
It does.
Making sense.
Yes, sir.
All right. All right. Okay. So I think I can continue at this point. We believe that we understood what SWOT analysis is and how it relates to you defining or designing your career path. So I like to say that one of the ways or the major ways you really use a SWOT analysis is not just to define your career path, it's also to design your career path. I don't believe that people are made for just one thing alone. Every one of us have the ability to do many things and have the ability to thrive in different career paths, right? All of us do have. God did not create all of us to do one thing. I don't believe that we're created to just do one thing, right? And I can, if you're a believer here, I can give you an example from scriptures. Remember that even Jesus Christ, before Jesus Christ now started his ministry as the savior or as somebody who was going to die, he spent some good years of his life as a carpenter before he now did what is called a career transition, right? So even Jesus Christ did not come to the earth and did one thing. He was a carpenter before he now became the Lord and Savior and all of that. So just using that as an example to say that there are many things that we really can do, but we are not expected to do many things, right? There are many things we can do, but we are not expected to do many things. We can use SWOT analysis to create or design a career path that can maximize, that's the key word, that can maximize your potentials and give you a profitable life, right? So the reason why I want us to really take this serious is because I realized that most people are graduating from higher institutions without realizing that the world of work has changed. Some of the dream jobs that you had when you started university may no longer exist in 2025. Some of the dream jobs that some of us were planning to do no longer exist, right? And so the earlier we start adopting SWOT analysis in our career pattern or in our career design, the better it is, because what that helps us do is that it's always helping us look at our strengths, right? Match it with our weaknesses. Look at the external environment. Is there a need for this thing? Will there be a need for this career path in the next 10 years, right? There's a research report that World Economic Forum always publish, I think every year, right? And in that research, they always tell you the future of jobs. Some jobs that will no longer be in existence in 10 years. Some jobs that will no longer be in existence in 2026. They are always predicting those jobs. And based on certain factors or certain indicators, they do those predictions, right? So SWOT analysis is a tool that helps you to ensure that you are no longer irrelevant in the future. So it's not something you do once and for all, right? It's something you want to adopt as your career tool or your career planning tool. You're always asking yourself, what skills do you have? Based on these skills, are you going to be relevant? What are the threats in your industry? What are the opportunities with these skills? What career path can you transition into with the skills that you have, right? So it's very important that you must take this very seriously, especially for people who are still even in the university, right? I realize that most of them are just studying a course that and they don't realize that the world of work has changed, that those courses will not be relevant, right? Yes, you can have a BSc in PAM, right? I don't know what course is called PAM, but I'm just saying, I don't want to mention the specific course, right? Let's say you have a BSc in PAM, but when you relate what you're studying in PAM and what the opportunities are in the world of work, there's no correlation, there's no relevance, right? So you have to keep doing SWOT analysis to ensure that you are relevant in your life, right? Because the key to career success today and in the future will be creating value. The key to career success is creating value, right? But then this is the key word here. Value is not in the eyes of you. Value is not defined in your own eyes. Value is defined in the terms of the potential employer. So it is not what you call value that is value. It is what the potential employer that is going to employ you calls value that is value, right? So you may be seated down and you think, oh, I have this thing, I'm valuable. Whereas in the eyes of the employer, that thing you called value no longer exists. It's a typical example, right? There was a time people who know how to type, like typewriters, right, used to be very, used to be the king, right? So used to be the boss of certain industry or certain careers, right? And if those guys come today and say that they are valuable, both of us know the response. So that value is gone. So what value was 2 years ago may no longer be what value is in 2026 or in 2025. Right. So value is actually in the eyes of potential employers, right? Remember the quote that they say that beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. The same thing as value. Value is not in your eyes. Value is in the eyes of the potential employer. So that's why you always have to be doing what is called SWOT analysis to ensure that what you call your skills, what you call your strengths, also matches the opportunities that are in the industries, right? It's always aligning with the opportunities before you can now say that you are switching to those career paths or you are focusing on those career paths, right? So a career path is a series of jobs or occupation that leads you closer to your goals and the vision for your life. Remember I said that the reason why you are doing SWOT analysis so that you are deciding on a career path that helps you maximize your potentials, helps you get you closer to your goals and the vision for your life. Remember that a career path is not equal to your life, right? A career path is a roadmap or a series of occupation or jobs that you are going to do that helps you get closer to the bigger goals you have for your life or the bigger visions you have for your life, right? So keep that in mind. So now let me begin to wrap up. How do you create a career path based on the SWOT analysis that we've talked about or we are talking about, right? How do you use SWOT analysis to create a career path? Maybe let's get granular. I've told you how to do SWOT analysis. Create a sheet of paper, right? Strengths, right? Weakness, right? Opportunities, and right traits. Under the strengths, write the strengths. Internal strengths, not external. Not the things that you do not have, not the things that you wish to have, the things that you currently have now. right? And it can be skills, it can be attitude, it can be anything, right? Even your name can be your strength. Hope you know that. For example, if you are the son of Babajide Sanwo-Olu, the son of the governor, that's a strength. Your name can open doors. It's a strength, right? Right. So when you are doing all those things, factor many things, put it into factor many things as your strength, right? Living in Lagos can be your strength because I mean it's a strength when you compare it with many other people who don't live in Lagos. You are exposed to many other opportunities that are not out there to many other people who don't live in Lagos. So think bigger when you are trying to list about this your strength. Same thing with your weakness. Anything personal is your weakness, right? Opportunities. So based on this strength that you have written, what opportunities can you create? What career opportunities can you create based on your strengths? Based on the weaknesses, what strengths? How can your weakness put a threat, right, to building a career, that maximizes your strength and is profitable for you? So how do you create a career path? Just give you some examples, right? Identify your passions. I mean, part of the strengths that you're going to write out there. But what I want to show you here is when you are writing all of these things, make sure you are tying it to really what you really want to get out of life, right? So that you don't just, for example, one of my passions when I was growing up was playing football, but I knew that I would never be a footballer. So I wouldn't have identified that as my strength because playing football wasn't part of what I really wanted to do. I played football to while away time, right? To while away time. So you want to tie that to something larger or something bigger that could be, yes, use the word could be a career path for you when you're listening along. The second thing I want to give to us is try to use self-assessment tools. And there are many self-assessment tools, right, online. But there's this one I enjoy using. It's called 16 personalities, right? It's Myers-Briggs type indicators, MBTI. So 16personalities.com. It will ask you a series of questions, and those series of questions will be based on the answers. They would help you recommend certain career paths that you can create for yourself. The second analysis that you want to do, and this falls under opportunities, and yes, this falls under opportunities, right? Is that you must understand industries. Every skill that you have, right? Every skill that you have can be leveraged on in a particular industry. And this is something that many people, especially many undergraduates, do not know about. We are studying courses, but we don't know that jobs are within a bigger umbrella called industries. Every job falls within an industry, right? Every company plays within an industry. For example, financial services is a big industry that covers banking, that covers insurance companies. All your microfinance bank are inside financial services. All your mortgage bank, they are inside financial services. All your fintechs, they are inside financial services. All your investment bank, they are inside financial services. So financial services is that big industry that covers all those small companies that plays within that industry. I hope we got this analysis well. Guys, I hope we get this analysis well.
Yes, we do.
I need response. I want to be sure that we are following me. I have like 5 minutes left to finish this up, right? Before we take questions. But I need to be sure that you are following me.
You can unmute your mics and speak,
Yes, we
guys.
can. We are following.
Yes, sir, we're following. We're following, sir.
Yes, sir,
we are
All right.
following, sir.
All right, thank
We
you.
are
Let's
following.
wrap it up.
Yes, sir, we are.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. I'm just trying to let us see that there's a bigger umbrella called industries that covers any kind of job and any kind of company you want to work in, right? So if you look at, let me take another sector for example, right? Energy, oil and gas. Anything you want to do, right? So inside oil and gas, you have upstream, right? There's upstream, there is downstream, there's midstream. These are players within the entire energy sector, right? There is power generation, there is power distribution. So, and there are companies that focuses on all of these aspects, but they are in a bigger industry called energy or power, right? The same thing with consulting. KPMG is inside consulting. EY is inside consulting. Allen & Grant is inside consulting. There are many consulting firms, right? They all play in an industry called consulting, and there are different jobs right, you can find in those consultants. The same thing with manufacturing. So when you are doing your research, right, or when you are doing your SWOT analysis, you should also extend your research, expand your research to understand what industries are you interested in and begin to do research around those industries based on the skills that you have or based on the opportunities that you have identified from your skills. Expand your research to industries and understand how those industries work and understand how really you can build a career within those industries. It's going to help you. The reason why I put technology in the middle is simple. Every industry here is being disrupted by technology. So technology is, in my opinion right now, technology is not an industry. Technology is an enabler, right? Technology is disrupting financial services the same way it's disrupting agriculture, the same way it's disrupting real estate. So technology can play anywhere. It's an enabler, right? So as you do your research, also understand how you can leverage technology to disrupt that industry you say you want to go and play in. I just hope that makes sense. The next thing I want to recommend, because what I'm doing right now is recommending, once you identify your strengths, your weakness, your opportunities, your strengths, and you are able to say, you are able to identify one career path, right, that you can now build your career around, one path that you can build your career around, leveraging on the industries I've talked about. The next thing you should be asking yourself to start in that industry or in that career path is finding role models and mentors, because every industry you want to play in, there's somebody who is currently doing what you want to do there, right? Find people who looks like a picture of your future and see how you can begin to learn from them, build relationships with them, and do what is called informational interviews, right? There are some things that people will tell you from informational interviews that you will not see on Google, right? So it's usually easier to find role models and mentors within the industries you want to play. When you have done your SWOT analysis, the result of your SWOT analysis should be top 1, 2, 3 career paths you want to build your career in. And then you now begin to do what is called finding role models and mentors that can help you make your journey easier. Then, of course, you now begin to do internships, volunteer, do job shadowing, just to gain experience in that particular industry you identify, aggressively begin to develop skills, both hard skills and soft skills. Yes, I literally put this here so that I will let us know that every industry have what is called shortage of skills, right? Especially when it comes to entry level. Entry level people, it's usually a big problem, right? This research, this particular thing I'm showing you, this particular data I'm showing you was a research that I did personally, right? Every recruiter says that shortage of technical skills is a big problem when it comes to hiring. So I'm showing you so that you will know that desire is not enough if you want to get into any industry. You have to calm down, humble yourself, and get dirty to get the technical skills required to build a career in whatever industry you have designed for yourself. So that would be my few ideas that I want to share with you, right? And this is my last slide. Upskilling is a new degree. So even if you studied a course and they tell you can work anywhere, guys, trash that rubbish and begin to know use SWOT analysis to find what career you want to build your life on, and then begin to upskill yourself around that. I think this is a good point to take questions. I have 5 minutes because I need to jump on another presentation by 7 a.m. So I have 5 minutes to take questions. Let me
Wow.
see how many persons have questions.
Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Great. And this I must say this is an amazing session, and I really, really enjoy it too. So guys, because he has another meeting now, if you have any question, just raise your hand so that we can call you, then you unmute your mic in an orderly manner. That's why we want you to raise your hand. So I'll be looking for people who raised their hands, and you can also drop it in the chat box. If you are shy to speak, you can just drop your questions in the chat box. Questions. There is no wrong or right questions. Are we saying that we understand everything that is shared with us? Remember that you won't have any other opportunity to ask your question. Any question, guys?
Yes, good evening.
Okay, good evening, Eunice. Go on, Eunice. Eunice, if you are speaking, you are muted. Kindly unmute your mic. Oh, I think his network is fluctuating. Eunice, if you can hear me, we cannot hear you, please.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you
Can you hear
now.
me? Okay, yes,
Yes.
this is Delight. I'm connecting from Abuja. I would like
Okay.
to ask, thank you very much for
Yeah,
this
everyone.
session. I would like to ask, in the point of, or at the point of trying to draw your strengths and your weaknesses, or yeah, your weaknesses, is there a possibility of while trying to pick a particular strength, it can double as both weakness and strength, or pick a an option that is both a strength and a threat at the same time? Is there a possibility for that?
A weakness can be a threat, but a strength cannot be a threat. So if your question is there a possibility that you can have certain item from either strength and opportunities, right? Yes. But is there a possibility if something appears as your strength and also appears as your weakness, there's a problem. Why you call something a strength and a weakness? Do you want to give you an example of what can be a strength and be a weakness at the same time?
I have not been able to come up with such now. But I was just while you were giving the lecture, I was just thinking wild and see if there's a possibility for that. It's just a pop-up question in my head.
Okay. So remember that a strength should literally be a strength, right? A strength should literally be something that you currently have, right? That would support a successful outcome in your life. So
Okay.
if it's not going to support any outcome in your life, it's not a strength. So there's no possibility of what is a strength should be a weakness. I don't believe so. If you tell me that a strength can be an opportunity, yes, right? Because remember that I said that even the opportunities that you are listing will be inspired by the strength that you currently have. So, for example, I have a strength in communication. I can talk well, right? So, what opportunities can I use my talking to achieve? I can pursue a career in communications, maybe as an MC, right? Or as a journalist, or as a broadcaster, presenter. Those are opportunities that are out there, right? That I can leverage my personal strengths in, the strengths that I currently have. So that's how strength can relate with opportunities, but not strengths relating with weaknesses. Clear enough?
Yes, thank you very much.
All right, great. Thanks.
Okay,
Ajarat
thank you
Yusuf,
very
please
much.
go ahead.
Ajarat.
I still have 4 minutes.
Ajarat, you
Unmute,
can
Ajarat.
unmute your mic, please. Wow. I guess her network or something. Okay,
If your
well,
network is disturbing, maybe you want to put the question in the chat. I'll speak to it,
yes.
so that
Okay,
we can.
Ajarat, we can't hear you if you are speaking. You can just type your question in the chat box while we read it out for Great to answer. So if there is any other person who has a question, please unmute your mic before our speaker leaves. Questions, guys. Blessing, can you unmute?
Hey, good evening, Ma. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
So I'm Miss Benson speaking coming from Abuja. So I have a question regarding the last hour. Our speaker spoke about like connecting with your role model, those people in your dream job. So I'm a student of film and multimedia studies in University of Abuja. So even the people teaching us, like it's really hard, really difficult to see like role models for us. So what advice do you have for people like me who don't actually have that opportunity to meet our role models?
Okay, thank you. That's Blessing, right?
Yes,
Was that
sir.
Blessing?
Yes.
Right. Thank you, Blessing. I thanks for that question. I don't expect you to see your role models in the classroom because you can never have role models. Well, except you want to be a lecturer. Maybe your lecturers can be your role models. It is. I mean, the possibility rate to find your role models in the university or in the classroom is maybe 1%, right? So you want to find role models, you have to do your research. You would have to go outside your four walls of your classroom, outside the four walls of your classroom. Your role models are busy producing results in those industries. And I'll give you an example. You're studying multimedia or whatever you mentioned, right? Something related to communication. And let's say your role models, your model is somebody who is I don't know who your role model is, but let me give you an example. Let's say your role model is this guy that anchors, maybe this guy that read news on channels. That's just an example. I didn't say that that's it, but I mean it's you will not find those kind of people in your classroom, or they are not even close to you. That's even why they are role models. The fact that they are far from you, that they are not very close, right? The first thing is that you have to do your research and you have to keep following them. Today, the internet and the social media has made it even easier, or the digital technology has made it easier that you can connect to anybody online, even when you don't have a relationship with them personally. By connecting with them and by reading their stuffs and by listening to them on a daily basis, right? It gives you a perspective into what is in their mind and what they are doing, gets you exposed to what they are doing. Until there's now an opportunity where you now have to meet them one-on-one. For example, they are attending an event close to you. Maybe they are speaking at an event in Abuja and you are schooling in the University of Abuja, right? Attend that event. That's a good way to connect with them. That's a good opportunity to connect with them, right? Or they are doing a book launch. Buy those books, read their blogs. They have podcasts, listen to their podcasts. They may be saying certain things in those places that gives you access to the thinking patterns and the thinking models of those role models, right? The reason you are connecting with role models is not just because you want to use it to brag and say you have a role model that is this. No. The reason you are connecting to role models, always understand the purpose. The purpose is that you want to you want to get the knowledge or perspective, yes, the mental models of those role models, because it is what is in their minds that make them who they are, right? So you want to feed your mind with what they feed their minds with, because what got them to where they are was what they fed their mind with, right? So find every opportunity you can access or leverage on to connect with those role models. But the first thing you have to identify you have to identify them, and you cannot identify them from the four walls of a university. use your internet, use your social media, research, listen, ask people, right? When you cannot identify them, then you can now begin to do what is called strategy to connect with them and meet with them and learn from them. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Okay. Do we have more
I only
questions? Two
believe that
minutes
that
to
is
go.
the only question. I don't think there's any other question left, so that I can run. I'm sorry. I really would like to say more, but I have to jump on
Okay.
another
I
call.
think Eunice dropped a message, a question,
Okay, Eunice, you said
which
which
is
industry can a statistician develop a career path? I mean, statistics, if you are studying statistics, you are studying a broad course, right? And that's because almost every industry is shaped by data, right? Every industry needs data. We use data to make informed decisions. So, for example, economics, right? You can work with National Bureau of Statistics. Those are people who are always doing research and publishing data, so that every other industry can use those data and make informed decisions. Even in consulting, right? We are always looking for people who have broad base of statistics knowledge or skills. Even development sector. I mean, there are lots, right? Development sector, economics, right? Those are sectors that you can always find yourself, right? So you want to do your research. Even financial services, they're always looking for statistics because you are quantitative in your approach, right? Studying statistics means that you have quantitative reasoning or quantitative skills, which is also a required skills or required aptitude, right, in the financial services. You can look at manufacturing as well. In manufacturing, there are people who do supply chain, right? People who do things around supply chain and procurement. They're always dealing with numbers. They're always dealing with data, right? So manufacturing and FMCG is another good place. Consulting and business advisory is another good place. Um, of course, if you want to do academics as well, you want to end up as a lecturer, that's another good place, right? So there are different industries you can leverage your career in statistics. The development sector, which is NGO, is also a good place. You can harness. I hope I answered that question. Hajarat Yusuf said, a great example of a strength and weakness is a person who has passion for writing but struggles with effectively communicating their ideas or constructing clear and concise sentences. Okay? The strength lies in creativity and reasoning, but the weakness is in their ability to articulate their thoughts in a clear manner. All right, great. Makes sense. And this is to back up the question asked earlier. So how do we go about it? So the way I'm going to answer this is, I will literally say that you have a passion for writing, but you struggle with effectively communicating your ideas and constructing clear and concise sentences. So the way to back up that strength, I mean, that is the strength, is that you have a passion for writing. But the weakness is that you cannot, you are, it's your inability to articulate that thought in a clear manner. That's where training comes in, right? So the fact that you have passion for writing and you are not able to articulate your thoughts in a clear manner, you want to subject yourself to further training and refine that passion or refine your skills so that you are able to articulate your thoughts. So maybe you want to go for there are different creative writing schools that are not literally academic in nature, right? You want to go to those kind of schools and just to refine, your creative writing. I hope I answered that, Ajaras.
Thank you very much for the answers to the question. Great. So, in order not to take much of your time again, I believe we all understand all that he has shared tonight and no questions because you guys, okay, thank you, Ajarat, for that affirmation because you guys, you didn't say anything. So, till we have you come around again, great. Thank you so much for tonight. Really appreciate you for honoring our invitation. So, guys, we've come to the end of today's
Yes, so
session.
just before I rush out, sorry,
Okay.
maybe you want to ask personal questions. I've just dropped my email on the chat box, so you can ask your questions later, and we can always have conversation around that. Thank you. Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So if I were you, I would just copy that email
Um,
address and keep it somewhere. But don't
Hi,
worry, we will
great.
drop that in
Thank
the
you so
WhatsApp.
much.
Oh,
I
hi,
just want to
NICHUB. Thanks.
appreciate you. Thanks a lot for coming around.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.
Yeah.
I got to rush. Sorry, I have another call that started 7:05, so I need to rush out. Thanks, guys. I appreciate.
Thank you, thank you. All right, guys, we've come to the end of today's session. Don't forget that we are meeting tomorrow, the same time on Teams. The link will be shared with us in our emails and on the group. I don't know if Mr. Israel has something to say because I saw your hand raised.
No, I just wanted to appreciate Great. I think that's all for me.
Okay, all right.